Travis Wingetzel. I've been doing YouTube videos. I even had a website back in 2017 warning Mormons and those who would listen about the threat to the United States of America and to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Having been born and raised Mormon in the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, I became an anthropologist of the ancient Middle East. With that knowledge, I then was able to get the answers about the latter days, because Latter-day Saints. And because of the information that I have found through my field, I am not liked by Mormons, my peers of my religion. I can only I am currently watching NCIS, and in NCIS, they use forensic science in their investigations of mostly murders. And so they have to obtain documents, they have to obtain crime scene evidence, and Abby's lab is used to establish the facts of who the person is and the manner in which they died, as Ducky does the autopsies. They look for financial documents to find out who done it, be able to establish the cause of the murder. And it is unfortunate that Mormons do not accept this process when it comes to investigating the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. The leaders of this church purposely are anti-science and use fallacious arguments rather than using sound arguments. They are lying and deceiving us. This became a harsh reality for me, being born and raised in the church, in the covenant. And so yes, because of my age, I was privy to some things that this rising generation is completely unaware of, as they are being groomed to be lambs to the slaughter. I had written out the outline for this video, and this, if you watch any video of mine to the end, this is it. This is the most important warning message you will ever get in your lifetime. On the 12th, 2 more days, Saturday, is the 30-day countdown to 9/11. I will be going over an outline of everything, of the documents, of the financial trail, of the facts, of the crime scenes, the prophecies for this coming event. Because it's that important for you. I want to make sure that I cover everything, And yes, this is expected to be over an hour long. How much longer? Let's get going here. No time for fooling around jokes. And so, Joseph Smith, yes, prophesied. Book of Mormon prophesied of it. Joseph Smith, in a couple of documents, also added to the prophecies of the Book of Mormon, giving us the date, giving us the who, and giving us the where, which is the United States of America specifically. And so, I probably should cross out things as I get them accomplished here too. We need to start with the history. And I know Mormons don't want to believe. They're upset and they refuse to listen, thinking that, not listening will save them in ignorance. Guys. You ignore me at your own risk. Ex-Mormons, former Mormons, never Mormons, you need to listen to me too, because this also affects your life. This threat is also for you. The history of the church has been lied to us. And even ex-Mormons, former Mormons, critics are incorrect and incomplete. Because the real story is the scary picture of what's going on right now. Because everything has been fulfilled up until this day. It begins on 9/11, 1826. William Morgan had been in the lodge at Canandaigua, New York, working on a book. He had obtained a coup plot of the United States of America from the War of 1812, which 9/11, 1823, War of 1820. So, yeah, 1823. Trying to get my dates right. I may mess up, because this is a summary. But this is a reference video for you. So please excuse the weaknesses of my associative memory. Was when the British had landed and were prepared to march on D.C., for which the White House was burned. The day that shall burn as an oven. Starting to see the patterns. He was helped, of course, by the master mason of that lodge, Joseph Smith Sr. On 9/11, he was found out about, and the enemy falsely accused him to get him locked up in jail. And back then, if you get locked up, they had what's called debtor's prison. And even though he had been paid to write the book, nevertheless, they were threatening his life. We know you, you better be silent. This is what they do. Notice it's what they did to Joseph Smith Jr. They kept falsely accusing him to get him locked up, to get him out of the way. And eventually they had to murder him. because of the need to rescue his life and have him escape the country, which again was the responsibility and duty of Joseph Smith Sr. Joseph Smith Sr. also then had to have the responsibility to make sure the book got finished and published. That is the origin for the Book of Mormon. It is literally a coded communication of the threat to the United States of America right now. And so all of the history of the church is coded. The first vision didn't happen. First of all, it's called a vision, not literal history. But it says it's history. That's the code. They used Joseph Smith Sr.'s religion of Jewish Kabbalah, the learning of the Jews, with his Freemasonry, which was the York Rites, which has as the highest rank the Knights Templar of Friday the 13th, the Holy Grail, the bloodline of the human mortal Christ, of all scripture prophecy. Because it's not Christian, created by Roman Emperor Constantine, the great and abominable church, with the great and abominable Christ, which is defined in that creed as not real. Yeah, you made the connection to the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, didn't you? Because Joseph Smith's church, on 6 April 1830, with 6 members who were sons of the fathers, are the learning of the Jews, as a counter group for the Illuminati, founded by Johann Adam Weishaupt, 1st of May, 1776, with 5 members. They infiltrated the Scottish Rites Freemasonry of the 33 degrees as the honorary highest rank. Freemasonry now is not the same as then. It's changed because of 9/11/1826. If you'd done your investigation, you would have known this. But people who think they know things don't. That's why it's important that you not argue with me on these things. I've done the research. That's why I'm warning you. That's why this video is so important. And hopefully you're still listening, because normally you're not. And so the Book of Mormon was intended to be spread through the church to get into the hands of the United States of Americans, so that they would have the book, that it would be preserved for right now. And yes, it contains the name Jesus. Again, this is the coding of the learning of the Jews who wrote the Bible. They are not literal histories. This was Roman Emperor Constantine who screwed that up. And because he screwed that up, the Jews do not accept many of the documents that are theirs. The Apocrypha, the Jews don't accept it because it was culturally appropriated by Christians. And yet, despite the Jewish traditional holy day of Hanukkah, the Jews will not accept the Book of Maccabees, which is the source scripture for that holy day. Likewise, they don't accept the Gospels because Christians got a hold of it. And unfortunately, because of the claim that the scriptures are now literal history, the Jews likewise believe that their Bible, that they did keep and make, is also literal history. This is an anti-science attack by Constantine to rewrite history, because it's not historical, it's prophetic of the latter days. And so when John in Revelation talks about Jerusalem and the Jews, Jesus, warfare, it's not talking about Jerusalem or the Jews or the Jerusalem temple or Jesus. It's coded. And they left the codes in what's called star dates. And there are different ways in which they did that. One is through story form. Other is directly telling us a sign in the heavens. And another, they use story form mixed with star dates because of solar eclipses. You're well aware that the constellations are assigned animals or humans to be represented, and that the planets and the sun and the moon follow the zodiac. This is how they wrote the scriptures, to prophesy using star dates of when the events are to occur and what is to occur. And like I said, it's all been fulfilled to this date. That's why I have full confidence that 9/11 is something you need to be warned about. And I have to warn you because I know the information. For me to not warn you, knowing the warning, would make me an accessory to murder. That's why this video is so important. Because those who attack me are accessories to murder. Those who deny are accessories to murder. And the Church of Jesus Christ has been attempting to murder me. And so they found out that Joseph Smith Sr. was involved with 9/11/1826. And they wanted to silence the church and murder those responsible. And so Brigham Young and Heber C. Kimball joined the church with that intention. They were immediately assigned to pass out Book of Mormons. They went to their hometowns where there were disgruntled Scottish Rites Illuminati. Told them they found them. They found the book. And so they were recruiting the enemy into the church. And then they would go out on missions to lie about the church and about the Book of Mormon, calling it Christian with Jesus Christ as the name of the church. And they rose up in numbers, they rose up in rank. Then they attempted a coup in 1838 after Joseph Smith was pissed that the missionaries had been lying about his church and its intention. That's why in the beginning he says evil disposed men were militating against the church. And so the Doctrine and Covenants that has scriptures from 1838 are forged documents by Brigham Young's organization. They did not happen. They are also coded for their plot. And thus, when they murdered Joseph Smith, Brigham Young altered the secret sign of the Illuminati, the inverted pentagram of Lucifer, on the Nauvoo Temple, and then the Salt Lake Temple. That was his design. And the Logan Temple. And his son, Don Carlos, was the one who made the Eagle Gate there on State Street that points to the Capitol building. Just like the inverted pentagram streets in Washington, D.C. that point to the White House. They left us clues with their secret sign from Helaman chapter 6. And so, yes, flags are the dead giveaway. They purposely were using the Bible's star dates to coordinate their plot to overthrow this government. And yet, Christians are deceived, because a redactor put in Matthew, no man knows the day and the hour. That's a blatant lie. The day and the hour is all over scriptures, even in Matthew. And knowing the dates, you then begin to understand the real interpretation of the prophecies, which, originally written by the Jews, are innocent. They are warning us. And just like Oedipus Rex, when he is told of the prophecy that he would murder his father and sleep with his mother, he thought that he could defy prophecy so that he wouldn't fulfill it. And in so denying, he fulfilled it. I heard that from Ari Melber on MSNBC the other day. He too was noticing the similarity here. And so likewise, Mormons who think that they can just deny it and ignore the threat, that it will just go away and won't be a threat. But in so doing, it becomes a threat. This is what evil never knows and understands. But in this particular case, they purposely know and are purposely fulfilling it as the enemy, because they don't believe that there would actually be a mortal Christ. They don't actually believe the prophecies as coming from God. And so when you see John C. Bennett from the church, who was excommunicated by Joseph Smith for polygamy, technically spiritual wifery, as these Danites, as they called themselves, judges, he tried to go back to the Danites to help him, but he was going to blow their cover. Joseph Smith already knew their cover, but nonetheless, he had to go and formed his own Illuminati Halcyon order. There are so much evidence, and I can't do it for this video. And so the prophecies, we'll start with the Book of Mormon, I guess. Do the earliest ones first. First Nephi, chapter 1. We are told the Book of Mormon is not literal history, that it is not Christian, that it is not Jesus, even though it says Jesus, because he says it's in the learning of the Jews and the language of the Egyptians. The Egyptians are the source origin for everything. The Egyptians knew about all this. The signs in the heavens, the events to take place, everything. And so Joseph Smith translation, Revelation chapter 12, verse 1, Joseph Smith Sr. adds signs in the heaven in the likeness of things on earth. That's Jewish Kabbalah. And so the first year of the reign of Zedekiah, king of Judah? No, it's code. This is the first year of the latter days. How do we know this? He gives a star date. Joseph Smith Sr. had to rewrite the 116 pages. Sidney Rigdon's the major author of the Book of Mormon. So while Joseph Smith was on sabbatical for a year, because he almost blew their cover, with Martin Harris stealing the 116 pages and going back to his anti-Mason committee in Palmyra, which fortunately it turned out to be a false alarm, but they had to wait a year to make sure, and thus Joseph Smith Sr. had to rewrite the 116 pages. And so the remainder of the Book of Mormon says, I've got time left, so I'm going to tell you about the letters of my father. I'm going to put in the Book of Ether. I'm now going to write some more because I've still got some time, because a marvelous work and a wonder about to come forth among the children of men was delayed a year. And it was a good thing, because 6th of April 1830 was a convenient date that worked out for itself in the end. And so Lehi has a dream, and in the dream, the vision, he sees a sign in the heavens. That sign in the heavens comes from Revelation chapter 12, verses 1, 2, and 5. Confirmed also with the Joseph Smith translation that moves verse 5 to verse 3. It's the sign of the beginning, the birth of the latter days. Which is a pattern of the Exodus of Moses. Because the Jewish Christ is a man like Moses. And so thus the book of Exodus is not literal history. It did not happen. It is prophecy of the latter days. 2020. It all happened. Even the parting of the waters for you to pass through on dry ground, Mormons. And you didn't go because you didn't believe and you didn't hearken. And so this first year of the reign of Zedekiah is the first year in which a leader of a nation takes over to cause the problems that will lead to its destruction. This pattern from the dream is exactly the same as Joseph Smith's second vision. Lehi's second vision, Joseph Smith's second vision. Exactly the same, just told in different story form. Lehi, Joseph Smith. Two different characters. And so the first vision, also not real, didn't happen. But in 2020, the church had their bicentennial year of the first vision. And it was ruined because of creeping death that year. And so all they did was a Saturday evening conference session. And then they had some monument dedication also that occurred later on. But that was it. And of course they lied to you. And Nelson made himself a fool by getting caught looking into the hat, of which I did the video yesterday about translation. There are so many blatant obvious clues for Mormons, and they will not see it. They look beyond the mark to justify wickedness, to be ignorant. You cannot be saved in ignorance. You are paying tithing with no guarantee of protection from the day that shall burn as an oven, and they that come shall burn you. That's what Joseph Smith added from Malachi in the second vision, which, because it's an exact pattern match with the Book of Mormon of Lehi's second vision and with Revelation, and thus all of Scripture, Joseph Smith is giving us the date for the coming of the Mormon Christ, which is 23 September 2017. That's the star date from Revelation. That's the birth that everyone talks about. It's not the actual birth of the Christ, it's the birth of the latter days. Because that's the big event. And yes, it's already happened. My #1 video, still to this day, thanks to the corruption of YouTube and the seditious conspiracy, is about that star date. And so you can see how far I've come in video quality. And so Joseph Smith, by revealing that it was the missionaries who were destroying the reputation of the church, calling it the wrong name, and you're going, wait a minute, it says, Joseph Smith said it's the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints in a section 115, written that same year, just a couple months earlier, confirms the name that Nelson got up and quoted at conference and demanded everybody say the name. Yeah, section 115 is a forged document. The original Joseph Smith history did not contain Jesus Christ. See, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints has finished posting the Joseph Smith papers. They are the original source documents, and thus they are the authoritative source for Mormons. But the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is not coming out with new editions of the scriptures to correct the errors that have been put in. You know, like Willard Richards, who put Jesus Christ in the name of the church in the Joseph Smith history of 1838. They won't tell you of the corrections. And this year is the bicentennial year of the second vision, and they're not doing a big deal about it. They're not even talking about it. They've made no mention of it. They're avoiding it because they have been the coup to fulfill it. And now 1840. Joseph Smith gave section 101, in which he included a parable prophecy for Mormons of the latter days. He often referred to that parable prophecy. One such one is the most famous that Mormons had had as a Mormon myth all my lifetime and prior to. But with the Joseph Smith Papers release, we now know the source origin for it. It is no longer a Mormon myth. We now can correct what has been misunderstood from it. And you might recognize it as the Constitution shall hang by a thread. This is the original. This is the original wording. He first refers to his parable prophecy of the latter days from section 101. It talks about the redemption of Zion. And then he says, then the enemy shall come as a thief in the night. And it says one blank line. We know what goes in there. It's in the parable prophecy, section 101. Shall scatter the servants abroad. When the seed of these 12 olive trees are scattered abroad, so the 12 olive trees are Mormons. And Mormons will be scattered all over the earth. Ta-da! Fulfilled. They will wake up the nations. So yes, Mormons are well known around the world, just for the wrong reasons. Even this nation, the United States of America, will be on the very verge of crumbling to pieces and tumbling to the ground. And when the Constitution is upon the brink of ruin. There's the correction. Joseph is saying that Mormons will be the staff upon which the nation shall lean, and they shall bear the Constitution away from the very verge of destruction. Unfortunately, that's the Zion Church with the real Christ. Because the prophecy that is purposely being fulfilled by the enemy is to destroy the United States and destroy the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, so that they can rise up as Lucifer's organization. With a mass extinction, with the government destroyed, they can do it. Albert Pike wrote a letter to Giuseppe Mazzini saying that's exactly what we're going to do. Like I said, numerous documents confirming everything. How can the Constitution be destroyed other than literally? There are multiple copies of it. I've obtained my own digital copies of it. So how does the Constitution and the government collapse? I refer you to the First Amendment as one example. The Constitution itself, in Article 4, says that we are to be a Republican form of government. Not a Republican Party, though party government is a form of Republican government. It's called communism. Representatives of a socialist republic. And likewise, fascism is a representative republic. Those are both forms of a republic. There are other forms of a republic. America has divided itself between the two major extremes, communism and fascism. Article 6 clarifies which form of a republic we are to be. The Constitution is the supreme law. Not Congress, not the President, not the judiciary. The Constitution. A constitutional republic. And so all government officials from all levels and branches of government throughout the whole United States are to follow the Constitution as the supreme law of the land. And we don't follow it, do we? Because we have communist parties of the two extremes of communism and fascism, rather than individual candidates who uphold their oath to follow the Constitution. Instead, they're using the psychological manipulation of divide and conquer from the art of war. both sides are equally responsible, even though fascists are in the spotlight more often. But both sides keep pushing to lie to us that we are to be a democracy. That form of government is an abomination because it means majority rules. So a fascist rule? Yeah. It really isn't about majority because they are the majority who were voted. That's how they interpret it. And then, of course, the communists, as they purposely cause suffering to the minority, even though they claim they're for the minority to make them the majority. Yeah, they're segregationalists. The First Amendment. Congress shall make no law respecting an establishment of religion or prohibiting the free exercise thereof. Why is the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints so insistent on pushing for the religious freedom movement? Trying to get laws passed for the religious freedom movement? The First Amendment says, no, you've got your religious freedom, that's all you get. But yet the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is pushing to overthrow this First Amendment. They are the enemy. They are the threat. Or abridging the freedom of speech. So does that mean hate speech that threatens to silence the free speech of others is therefore have to be accepted? Criminal speech? Hate speech? Like the Mormon here in Provo who was killed by the FBI when they went to serve the search warrant. Doesn't he have freedom of speech to say he's going to murder Biden? No, that is not freedom of speech. You do not have the right to overthrow another person's freedom of speech. Just like religion does not have the right to have exclusive laws to protect them further so that they can be exempt from following the Constitution. Now, do you see how the Constitution is in jeopardy? Because we're not done. Or of the press. Did Fox News have the right to lie to its viewers? Therefore, the lawsuits were unjust? The press must tell the truth, must present the facts. They should not be holding council opinion panels. They should not be doing poll surveys and calling it news. They should not be giving their opinions. They are to state the facts and let we, the people, know of what's going on. Not be manipulated one way or the other, whether communist or fascist. The press is the fourth estate only when they are telling us the truth about the facts. The right of the people to peaceably assemble. Yeah, a person was just sentenced for his murder at the Jewish synagogue. I believe it was a synagogue, or was it one of the Kolami schools? Regardless. You can't do that. You can't arrest protesters. You can't call protesters domestic terrorists. If they are peaceably protesting, you've got to allow them to assemble. But here in the state of Utah, you're a domestic terrorist. You have to get a permit, and you have to be zoned away from what you're protesting. You know, like when you want to protest the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, you got to get permission of a permit, and that permit has to be located far, far away from Mormons attending conference, which kind of defeats the purpose of the protest. That's the whole point. Black Lives Matter protest here in Utah. The news live covered the police knocking an old man to the ground. The old man, paranoid of retaliation by the police and the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, did not want to press charges. Fear for his life. Yes, the state of Utah chose fascist republic because of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. And you thought because they have priesthood with the law of consecration, you got fooled by definitions. The church came out during the Red Scare, where the blacklisters were making a list. The church came out and said, nope, we're not communist, we're fascist. And then to petition the government for a redress of grievances. This is what you've been witnessing. The overthrow of Roe v. Wade did what? States then emerged with all sorts of laws. And so what do we, the people, have to do? We have to sue the government to restore our rights. And yes, Ohio yesterday was in the news. They unanimously voted to keep abortion. But still, Roe v. Wade has been overthrown. And so it will eventually make it to the Supreme Court. The states and the federal court cannot violate the Constitution. But this is the threat to the Constitution, to our government, is that all of these laws are coming forward to overthrow the existing constitutional laws. That's their whole plan. They keep pushing everything to destroy and overthrow the laws of the land. Book banning, denying freedom of speech. They're just using LGBTQ as their excuse to do it. Shooting unarmed black men in the back. They're using that to deny the constitutional rights of having a search warrant, and the right to due process. Everyone is involved in seditious conspiracy. This is the threat to the Constitution that Joseph Smith is warning you about. This is their plot. To cause confusion, to cause chaos. To get people focused on the individual events and not see the big picture of what's being done. And that's been Trump's tactic all this time, which he wrote about and has told in press interviews. Yeah, I just throw a whole bunch of stuff out there. I see what sticks, and I keep pushing for the other things that didn't stick. And once I get stuff approved and not challenged, I then go to the next step, and then the next step. All of it getting thrown out there. And so now he's being indicted. But this is all part of the plot. And so he keeps trying to push and delay his court trials because they've worked so effectively in the past. But this time he knows of dates that are coming up. If he can just get them pushed past those dates, that's why he's confident, dry and secure. No jokes, Travis. This is serious. And so Joseph Smith continues by saying, but before this time shall be these who are now my friends shall become my enemies. He's talking to the Mormons in his day, with the quorum of the 12 missionaries led now by Brigham Young because of the coup in 1838. They got rid of Joseph Smith, had him falsely accused and locked up in Liberty Jail. And so Brigham Young took over as president of the Quorum of the 12, kicking out Thomas B. Marsh. And so that was it. They thought they had conquered and taken over the church. Brigham Young was now leading it. He had gotten leaders chased out, except for Joseph Smith's family and Sidney Rigdon. He was easily able to turn Martin Harris because Martin Harris was purposely kept out of the loop of what was being done. He was just the money man to publish the Book of Mormon. But they already knew that he was a threat, so they needed to keep information from Martin Harris. And so they shall seek to take my life. There are those now before me who will more furiously pursue me, more diligently seek my life, and be more bloodthirsty upon my track than ever were the Missouri mobbers. Here's the identity reveal. You say among yourselves, as did them of old time, is it I? And is it I? Comes from Mark. There are other ones that also say, but that's the direct quote from Mark. It's the Last Supper, which is code for the latter days. The betrayer of Judas, which is Greek for Judah in Hebrew, who betrayed Joseph of Egypt. Judah is phonetically the same as Utah, and Utah is the state where the headquarters of Brigham Young is. They called it Deseret because it comes from Ether, of the story of the utter destruction of the people of the Jaredites. Now, do you know why I did that video the other week? Oh, you didn't watch it? Brigham Young knew what he was doing, knew who he was, knew his role in preparing for this future time right now. And Joseph Smith knew and called him out and knew that he was a part of this threat for the latter days by referencing the Last Supper. And yes, in the learning of the Jews, Joseph Smith is Jesus. Brigham Young is the 12. Because Jesus didn't exist. It's the learning of the Jews. And so yes, the Book of Mormon, 2 Nephi chapter 3. Joseph Smith, boom, he's our Christ. Because he's a man like Moses, like the man like Moses, whom in section 103, verse 16, Joseph Smith says he's going to be a Mormon who will come out of Brigham Young's great and abominable church of Jesus Christ. Okay. Book of Mormon, 1838, 1840. Okay, got that done. And so some other current events. Because I became an anthropologist of the ancient Middle East, the church obviously were threatened by me. And I didn't realize it at the time. I thought I was helping the church, showing that Joseph Smith is a translator of Hebrew and Egyptian. And yet, I didn't realize that I wasn't supposed to reveal it, because this is a great and abominable church. And so, they made life miserable for me, and got Mormons in my life to also attack me. This is how the church does it, just like the Mormon down in Provo. The church born and bred him to become the enemy of America, to make those hate comments. Just like Mormons who attack me on my channel when I'm trying to save their lives. They have denialism. No, the church is true. Jesus is real. You're not using the science and using logical argument. And so, I was forced to petition the government for a redress of grievances with the state of Utah. And instead, I know whereof I speak. I was called a domestic terrorist, and therefore, according to 9/11's Utah law version, I was indefinitely incarcerated. No trial, no verdict, no conviction, no due process. Just indefinitely incarcerated for 6 years. I disappeared. My dad threw my stuff away to try to erase me from history. I was miraculously freed. Literally a miracle. And yes, it's real, not supernatural, but 3 key people decided to retire. And that paved the way for my freedom. And that freedom was given at the pre-show beginning of the latter days. But I didn't realize it at the time. I've gone on to learn that the star date pattern is God's method of communicating with us, and has been communicating with Mormons about the presidents of this church. And so I did the videos about how each and every single president of Brigham Young's church And yes, there's some problems that would need further explanation that I've already done the videos on about the United States shutting down Brigham Young's church and it being resurrected by Heber J. Grant, etc., etc. But God sees them all the same as the great and abominable church. And he let Mormons know with signs in the heavens. Sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood, stars fall from heaven. And so, yes, 2014, the tetrad. But I found out there was more to it. Sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood, stars fall from heaven. As Perry, Packer, Scott also died. Joseph Smith, in his visionary accounts, talking about John the Baptist. Yep. He prophesied of that, giving us the date. I did the video. Like I said, I can't cover everything in this video. This is just a reference so that you would know where I speak and the warning. They knew the threats, and they knew there is a God, whereas the enemy does not believe in that God. They do not believe that a mortal human being will be the Christ, and that he would have the ability to survive their threats, as they are legion. And what's even wilder is that the enemy could not do certain prophecies, like the names of the president of the great and abominable church in the latter days, with the Christ's name. Lucifer versus Emmanuel. Literally a prophetic name for the actual name of the individuals. The enemy can't fake that. They can't forge that. Because you saw Brian David Mitchell attempt that. You can't do it. You either are or you aren't. And the president of this church is literally named Lucifer. Because Russell Marion is Mars, and Mars is the husband of Venus, the inverted pentagram of Lucifer. Thus Mars is Lucifer over the church of Lucifer. And Emmanuel is sun god. And the prophecies are that his shadow on Earth during the 3 major eclipses forming the letter A of Paleo-Hebrew, with the final one creating crossroads of the sun god. That's not just telling us where on Earth the events are going to take place. It's not only telling us the date of when they are to take place, the first year and the last year, but it also reveals his name. Crossroads of the sun god. Have you paid attention to my videos? I don't always use my name, per se. The thumbnail, right here in this corner, a little watermark or whatever they call it. I've been leaving you clues because I can't discuss everything in every single video. Those are supposed to help you. So, let's get to the big coup. This was a bombshell when I found it, and thus bought it, and thus made sure I brought it with me when the church tried to assassinate me again. It's on pages 290 and 291. And it's this whole section which includes 289, a grand council soon to be, and then keys of the everlasting kingdom, thrones to be cast down, and by the voice of the priesthood. I've already done the video going over all of this. I just wanted to remind you of it. That if you hadn't watched that video, you didn't get to the end of that video where I'm going over it, you need to trust me on this. Don't argue. Don't complain. But all Mormons know of the Mormon myth of this. I found the document. The church is going to be working with a secret combination to overthrow the government. To do what I told you they're doing in overthrowing the Constitution. Pushing to violate the Constitution and the constitutional rights of others. To push to make laws to overthrow the constitutional laws. And then to force us to have to go through the courts that are already rigged against us. That's why Trump already has all things set in motion to protect them. The threat is real. You're being played with a false hope that maybe we'll pull through. There is a reason why the fascist party is escalating their threats, threatening our finances. Hollywood's shut down now. We no longer have entertainment to appease us. This is what the Romans did to cover up their atrocities in government. They had the Colosseum. And no, there were no Christians murdered. Christianity had not been created yet. They were Jews. This secret combination, I found out right before I found this out. This was after conference in 2021. The secret combination was before conference. And YouTube had been ordered by the church to silence my voice before conference. Because every conference I get the most views. And they need to silence me, deny me freedom of speech, to warn you of the threat of the church. And YouTube is a conspirator in this. And I found it. The Southern Poverty Law Center released it online to make it available for everyone. They are a hate group. That's what the Southern Poverty Law Center does, is reveal hate groups. This secret combination is the membership directory. Wasn't supposed to be leaked, got leaked. Southern Poverty Law Center made sure everyone knows who they are. They were organized in 1981. They have been responsible for everything to attack and destroy America. They've got psychologists, they've got medical doctors, they've got lawyers, they've got businessmen, they've got evangelicals, and a representation of the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. This is the secret combination of the meeting at Adam on Diamond. It's already happened, and yes, Mormons didn't know about it. And that's why America is going to be destroyed. And the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints with Joseph Smith and the Book of Mormon will be destroyed. Because you can't have the Book of Mormon existing after everything's been fulfilled, because then people are going to say, hey, wait a minute, you're the enemy. The Book of Mormon was true in the learning of the Jews. It wasn't a literal history after all. And so they've got to destroy them, erase them from history, rewrite history, and rise up with Lucifer. And so they've got to destroy the current concept of Mormonism, just like Albert Pike said. Remove Jesus Christ. Thus the Bible also. Thus why these fascists love to misinterpret the Bible with their white supremacist interpretation. You know, masters have to obey their slaves have to obey their masters. Women have to be silent in church. They need to submit to their husband. And let God prevail. All of these are an attempt, and yes, no man knows the day or the hour. They are an attempt to deceive you about the real translation of the Scriptures, to purposely cause a stumbling block. And so the church, being in the secret combination, have been orchestrating and paying with tithing all the events to overthrow America. The Respect for Marriage Act, the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, their amended exclusion. We are exempt from obeying the Respect for Marriage, and therefore it got passed. And so even though LGBTQ think their rights are now preserved, you got punked because of the Amendment Clause by the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints. Because that presents a counter to the law, just like they're doing with all the constitutional rights. They're violating them. They're presenting alternate laws to overthrow it. They're denying science. They're denying logic. They're tricking people into denying science and denying logic. I had a person who calls himself Q on YouTube who says, I agree with you that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints is not real and fake, but, you know, you've got no proof that the church paid, or the church ordered, that Mormon to threaten Biden. Get your dumbass Q out of here. And if you haven't caught on, if any of you are listening who follow QAnon, the three major tenets that the one guy is telling you is that this deep state are from outer space, that they're satanic worshipers, and they're pedophiles. Have you never even bothered to look at the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints? They claim to come from outer space, called Kolob. They worship Lucifer. They've got his inverted pentagram on the keystone of the doors of the Salt Lake Temple. And they remodeled the Nauvoo Temple. And still on the Logan Temple. Still on the Eagle Gate. They're on State Street. You can do a Google search and look at it in real time. From 2 years ago, I guess. It's still there. And pedophilia is a major problem in this church. Not just with little girls getting raped and the church abandoning them so that the boys can go on their missions and then become priesthood leaders, but also the boys through the Boy Scouts of America, which the church abandoned when the heat came down. Church didn't want to pay for it because they're hoarding the money so that they can have their kingdom back. That's why they're buying up land. It's not for temples. They don't care if the temples are destroyed in the Ukraine war that the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints paid Putin for. Ezekiel 38. They want to own the land, not just in Utah, but all over the world, so that when the whole world is destroyed, the church rises up and say, hey, we own the land, and since we're filthy rich, we'll rule over you, and we'll call it Zion of Lucifer. They may not come out and say Lucifer, they may say light. Our Christ is the bearer of light. Right, Uchtdorf? And yeah. Okay. Now the big event for those of you who have been faithful and true to the end of this video. Make sure I got everything here. Okay. Okay. Keeping silent. Yep. Okay. Yep. Looks like we'll be finished in an hour and 30 minutes. Cool. I told you that they're using the star dates to coordinate their attack. And here it is. Joseph Smith comes as the messenger who is Emmanuel of the latter days. It's not real. He's telling us in story form that is not real the dates. He comes to Joseph Smith on the 22nd of September 4 times. And you say, well, it was the 21st, the first one, Travis. The learning of the Jews? What is 6 p.m.? It's the next day. All 4 were on the 22nd. Okay? So even though Earth, Wind, and Fire's song applies, it's the 22nd. 4 times. And so after this first day, Joseph Smith tells us that on the 22nd, 4 years, he again, 2 sets of 4 for the 22nd of September. And so 22 divided by 2 is 11. 9/11. I've already exposed the first set of 9/11s. First was to the War of 1812, which was 1813, wasn't it? Not 23. Why didn't you tell me? See, I do make mistakes, but hopefully you know my mistakes. I should have had 18, I said 1812, and I went 23. But this year is why I was confused with the association. The bicentennial year. 9/11, 1823 for the United States of America. 9/11, 1826 for William Morgan to keep silent. But the church used this to come out of that to form the warning voice of the church. And so then you have 9/11 in the United States of America, and people claim that it was retaliation for 9/11 in Chile. But then you also have the religious part. 9/11 with the Mountain Meadows Massacre. John D. Lee, third great-grandfather of Senator Mike Lee, who also is seeking to overthrow the government through election fraud, just like his third great-grandfather who was involved in the 1838 Mormon War, which began with the Danites from Adam-on-Diamond, their secret headquarters, going down to cause election fraud. That was their whole intention. The exact same patterns are being repeated. History repeating itself. We're not learning from history to stop it because we're being lied to about history. It was rewritten. Adam-on-Diamond was the mocking code for the overthrow of the government. Because it's spelled wrong. And so I found another code that has to do with the signs in the heavens. On the 21st of August, 2017, was the first day of darkness over the United States of America. 33 degrees later, was 23rd of September, 2017. Revelation chapter 12. Everybody knows that date. China made t-shirts. I bought one. I did videos with me and my t-shirt. I did videos where I show the picture that I had taken of me at my book signing in Elko, Nevada, during the prophecy of the flood from Revelation 12. With the laptop here showing that star date. And then, 8 days later, which I haven't confirmed that this is going to apply yet. I was wondering if 8 August, 2 days ago, there would be a connection. No. But September 3rd, maybe. 8 days after 23rd September 2017, Elder Hales dies October 1st. So, this year, we work backwards. I figured out this pattern of God with the deaths of Faust and Hinckley. They have a reversing that goes on with their signs in the heavens with their deaths. It was pretty cool. I did the video. 14th of October, 2023. Second day of darkness over the United States of America. Passes over Utah, passes over Travis County. He who is from the Crossroads County in Texas. And so, yes, 21st of August 2017 passed over Independence and Adam-on-Diamond. Utah, for the second one, 8 April 2024. Yeah, we go back to the beginning. The first shall be last, and last shall be first. Kirtland, Ohio, and the Manchester Farm. And it crosses over the first 2 days, forming the letter A in Paleo-Hebrew over the United States of America, as well as the last letter, which is Semitic Hebrew for Tau, but it's an X, like the Chi in Greek. This is the signs of the latter days. And the Hebrews, who are attributed as having created their alphabet, knew it. It's the Phoenicians, technically, because the people of Phoenicia were the first origin of this alphabet. And it comes from the Egyptians. So I know what I'm talking about. Looks like we've gone over 1 hour, 30 minutes. And so, September 11th, 2023, is 33 degrees earlier. Do you see that? Signs in the heavens, 33 degrees apart. Days. I'm saying degrees because Scottish Rites Illuminati are the ones who orchestrated this threat. They're using this pattern. And so that's why I'm curious about September 3rd, because it's 8 days earlier than 11 September. And we've got Holland, who's on his deathbed. And so I'm not sure what's going to happen. His dying is out of my hands. But it is a very interesting coincidence. And Nelson, on 9/9 this year, will have become 99 years old. There are some interesting number games going on. And just the star dates are the only ones the enemy are in control of to use to coordinate their attack on 9/11 this year, which Joseph Smith warned you about. The deaths of Holland and Hales and Monson, that was verse 3 of Revelation 12. Stars falling from the tail of the dragon, the quadranted meteor showers, during a supermoon, which was preceded, the sun shall be darkened, moon turned to blood, stars fall from heaven. Every single president of the church. So I'm very well aware that the fall of the church is coming. caused by the church. They paid for it. They can stop it. I don't know if it's too late to stop it, because they paid for it already. Every one of the organization members were involved in an event that they needed to make sure happened. So Steve Bannon, member of the Council for National Policy, the secret combination, helped rig the 2016 elections. Thus, the church was involved in overthrowing that election to make Trump win, to be Zedekiah, king of Judah, Utah, of the United States of America. And the warning that that would trigger the destruction of the United States of America and the fall of the great and abominable church to rise up with Lucifer's church, because they don't believe the true Christ of prophecy is real. He's the wild card, as Tony said when he was tortured in Africa. I saw that video yesterday. Alrighty. I covered it. So yeah, I was curious because I still have a question on my dream when I was indefinitely detained of 88 days. It was partially fulfilled because 88 days happened within my incarceration, but when my mom died at 77 years old, that set off dual prophecy and dream alert on me. So I'm still wondering what 88 is now. Maybe I'll find out after 3 days, tomorrow, that my dad actually did die on the 8th, because it takes 3 days to investigate any death in Utah to make sure that there was no foul play and people trying to fraud insurance companies and so forth. They're not even going to let me know. My brother didn't let me know about my mom, if you remember that scandal. And so, yeah, I found out I have to know that my dad died, and I have to contact the insurance companies. But if my brother and sisters won't notify me that dad died, I won't know if there's any inheritance, which I think there is, because my mom would have given my dad the money to pay for his quadruple bypass surgery, and maybe there's some left over. He's a financial person. I would assume he's trying to do that. But, yeah, I'm supposed to get an inheritance, even unless he's written me out of the will, which wouldn't surprise me at all either. But, well, still waiting to find out if that was anything, but it doesn't look like it. And so now, I run tests, and yeah, sometimes they're wrong, which means I have to rewrite a test to figure out what is going on. But this dating, that's set. That is confirmed. That is factual. But again, it hasn't happened. But this is the test. But everything has happened. Why wouldn't this happen? They're pushing it full steam ahead. The day that shall burn as an oven, the Holocaust of Mormons, is coming. And Joseph Smith prophesies 9/11 this year, the final year of the latter days, because 8 April 2024 is it. It's supposed to start the millennium then. And so as I've been telling you, the Book of Mormon prophecy, if you missed the 2020 Exodus, which you did, we now go to the prophecy of the Mulek-Limhi prophecy of being forced out of the great and abominable church with its destruction. forced out of Utah to cause an exodus. And only then, if I survive, will I be able to tell you we're supposed to go to X marks the spot over the United States of America to rebuild Joseph Smith's Zion, rebuild the 18th dynasty of Egypt's Zion, Heliopolis, of the David Moseses. So, alrighty. There's a reason why you should use science in your research. You've been lied to. The church wants to destroy you. And you ignore me, you ignore Joseph Smith, you ignore all scriptures at your own risk. And I'm well aware that there are Danites who know of all this, even though they're the low men on the totem poles. But if by chance you are innocent, be prepared. Have your emergency backpack ready to go. It doesn't seem like we'll be allowed transportation. I don't know how to bring the documents. But miracles have happened in my life, like I told you. There is a God, and the enemy does not believe in him. And yet, he's preserved me thus far. I just have to keep paying attention to his still small voice and fulfill it. Because if I get a still small voice and I ignore it and I go around saying, yeah, I know everything because this still small voice told me. No, I get the inspiration. I do the research to confirm it, to see if it is real, to do the investigation. I don't just rely on a spiritual witness only, because faith without works is dead. Alright, I'm just babbling now, aren't I?